Hello, friends. Welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher. What you're going to watch today is actually a 49-minute clipped version of a live stream. I clipped out all kind of the needless in between stuff and tried to keep the meat of the episode. And I hope that you find this enjoyable. I hope that you find this useful. There's a lot of good stuff in this episode. It's a little bit longer form. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think of this. I hope you love it. Empowering game masters to run better games is the goal here on the channel. So without further ado, let's dive into this edited live stream version, kind of more like a long form podcast version. Let me know what you think of it. Boom, let's go. If we're not showing up, being consistent in our games, then what's the point, right? I think that for me, when I'm a player, one of my biggest pet peeves is when GMs cancel sessions. Call me a jerk, but this is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I hate to cancel sessions. I will literally show up to sessions feverish, wrapped in a blanket. I've done it because I don't want to cancel. I feel like the least you can do is be consistent. So for a long time, I had a rule that if 2 or more players were going to be absent, we would cancel. However, nowadays, I do not run with that rule. I will run with one player because I'm in it to win it more than ever. And I've realized the value that can come from the magic of having fewer players and getting to go deep on role play. More players spotlight, fewer players equals deeper story, deeper lore building, and that can really increase retention glue in your players. This is actually true for paid games too. You want to really get players to care about your games, investing in them in that way, building that deep lore when some players can't make it, but you have more spotlight time to give. That is an opportunity, friends. That's not a detriment to your game. The 7 things I think we can do to make our next session better. What can we do to improve the game, improve it for our players, improve the experience? The number one thing is consistency. Guys, this is tip number 1. We have to be consistent out here. If we're not showing up, being consistent in our games, then what's the point, right? I think that for me, when I'm a player, one of my biggest pet peeves is when GMs cancel sessions. Call me a jerk, but this is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I hate to cancel sessions. I will literally show up to sessions feverish, wrapped in a blanket. I've done it because I don't want to cancel. I feel like the least you can do is be consistent. It's like the most baseline level. Even if you suck at everything else, being consistent is its own value. So show up to the next session. That's the first thing you can do. Stewart says, I use polls with my players to find out what they like, what they want to see more of, etc. What are your thoughts on doing that? And if so, how often? I love that as well. I don't post as many polls as I probably should to my players, except for there's one poll that I post after every single game. I ask which player should get player of the game. And then the player who wins that poll, they get a storyline point. And then storyline points rack up and players can spend them on in-game rewards. Things like magic items, plot twists, sidekicks, homebrew feats, things like that. Stuart says, oh my gosh, I had one GM cancel every second session, usually within an hour of launch. He did that 3 times in 6 weeks. I dropped after the last cancel. I'm surprised you lasted that long because, when you're a busy person out here in the world, you're trying to make your money, you're trying to succeed in this life, you're trying to manage family obligations, and then you've got GMs canceling within an hour, like, oh, I can't make it. Like, why? Why can't you make it? What are you actually doing? Did you just get stressed out? Like, if running a weekly game, or if the consistency that you're running games at is too much, just back off. Instead of running weekly games, run bi-weekly games. If you know that, right? Once you learn that about yourself, change it. Don't just cancel sessions. No one of consequence says DMs get stage fright. I used to struggle with it. You know what? This is actually crazy. I get stage fright. Or I used to, and I actually have kind of a history of dealing with this. Before the session, I'm going to tell you a story. We're going to go back in time to Josh, GM Philosopher, mid-20s. This is when I was like 25 years old. This is a long time ago. It's a long time ago. When I was running at the peak of I would say, where I was just catching my stride, and I hosted D&D at my house twice a week, every Saturday night and every Monday night. And then I would players would come up and I would use D&D. At the time, I was all about D&D, all about it. I was running 3rd edition. I was using D&D as a means to meet people and bring people into my life. So I would literally meet people. One day I met this dude at McDonald's who had his monster manual out and he was reading it while he was eating. And I said, dude, you play D&D? Did not know the guy. He said, yeah, we talked for like 5 minutes. I invited him to D&D on Saturday at my house. This was how I rolled with it. And we would have this revolving door of players. We had like 6 core players. We would have anywhere from 7 to 13 players on a Saturday night or a Monday night. Players were allowed to come to both, and they would blink out when they weren't there and they'd blink back in. And it was a wild campaign, guys. I actually have a video about that campaign on my channel. I have like a 20-minute video talking about that campaign. But I used to get so nervous, guys. I would have like 13 people in my kitchen. There would be character sheets, dice everywhere. Everyone's yelling, freaking out. And I'm in the bathroom being like, oh my God, man, I hope I don't suck. I hope this session doesn't suck. I'd pound a shot of vodka, and I would go out there and I'd just be like, who's ready to rock and roll? And it was like, I felt like I was walking out on stage every time. There's a lot of pressure, but I'm also an Enneagram type 3. I am very good at dealing with pressure under those kinds of circumstances. So I have some natural talents in that, some natural genetics. But I will say, when I was younger, this used to really mess with me, man. Stewart says 100% GMs not respecting their players' time. Players invest many hours up front during game plus their dollars. This is why I created my own campaign. Players deserve a better experience. I 100% agree. Players do deserve a better experience, and showing up is the least you can do, but also show up prepared. So this is going to be tip number 2. This is my second tip. Show up prepared. Have something prepared for the session. Now, I do understand that there's probably going to be some improv. I love to improv, and here's where I can swing too far. I love improv so much that there was a period of time where I would have been like, oh, whatever. I don't even need to prep. That's how good I am at improv. Not true. That should not be the way it goes. Prep your stuff. Some stuff's going to come up. I always know. I know some stuff's going to come up. Prep, get your maps straight, get your stat blocks straight, get your NPC, the NPCs are going to run into, get their portraits straight. I'm running VTTs, try to have some visuals going. We want to try to do our best. If I just show up planning to improv everything, this is borderline lazy. And I'm being honest about that. That's for me. I'm not calling you lazy. I'm preaching to myself right now. So show up with some prep done, at least the baseline minimum prep. If you're going to improvise, that's okay. Guess what? My video this morning, which you can find on my channel, my latest video was all about improvising for VTTs. I share my latest tips and tricks. Those of you who are really good at VTTs are probably going to watch my video and be like, this guy's an amateur. But I'm new to VTTs, guys. I have not been running online for very long. Maybe now it's been going on 2 years, but I haven't been running the whole 2 years. I took a whole year off in 2025 because my life was a crap show. It was a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I'm still new to this VTT business, guys. No one of consequence says, Stuart, you're exactly right. Even if I'm in an off mood, I still run the game because my players made the effort to show up. And you know what? Sometimes when you're in an off mood and you're not feeling it and you just show up and you just do it, sometimes those are the best sessions. When you give up, this happens. Like you show up to the session, but you've given up. You don't feel like it. You're not passionate, but you're just going through the motions. Sometimes magic really happens then, because sometimes you take a step back and you let the players take the lead and you realize, oh my gosh, the players are on one tonight. And then you get inspired, right? And that's how it should be. But sometimes when we're energetic and we're rearing to go and then we hit it and the players aren't feeling it, that can take us down a notch. Sometimes it's almost better when the players are feeling it, but you're a little less so. I think that may be better. It's maybe one of my favorite ways to get a session going. And then, of course, there's those bummer sessions where you and the players all feel like, bleh. But I'll be honest, that's really rare in my experience. It's super rare. Stuart says, I'm horrible at improv. I prep like mad and fill in the holes with a little improv. If you prep well, you have less pressure and it's easier to improv when you don't have to do much of it. Yeah, no, I agree. They say chance favors the prepared mind, right? It's like most about preparation. Thinking things through in your mind, it gives you more power to improvise. AWOL Warrior says, my biweekly group has a bunch of parents in it. So we're a bit gun shy about getting sick. We're generally okay with canceling for illness. Parents are going to get sick, man. Those kids bring home all those diseases from school. All the illnesses make the rounds of school every time, like every season. They all go around it. Everyone's getting sick. I understand. I totally understand. When you say you're a bit gun shy about getting sick, do you mean you cancel if people are sick because you all don't want everything to go around? That is understandable. It sounds like what you're talking about is the opposite. You don't want to get sick and take it home to your kids. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Man, I'm going to tell you what, back when I was running, another story about running games in my 20s, man, we had a bunch of parents, like half of us are parents. And so we would all be getting together. We'd have like 10, 13 adults at the table just role playing like crazy. And there'd be like a dozen kids running around in the backyard, running around in the house playing. We'd be like, kids, get out of the kitchen, because we're playing D&D in the kitchen. We don't want the kids that distract us. We're like, get out of here. And we'd be getting the kids, the kids would be eating their snacks and playing. And it was a good time. It was like a community thing, man. I miss those days. I really miss those days. I am planning on getting back to hosting in-person D&D at my house. I want to build a game room. We're getting there. My house needs some work, but we're getting there, man. Garrick says improv works best when carefully planned in advance. I heard that somewhere and I believe it. You're right. You're right about that. AWOL says concerned about getting kids sick. That's super understandable. You gotta put your family first. You gotta put your kids first. As much as I love D&D, it is a hobby. And when I say, the least you can do is show up. Don't be one of these GMs who cancels all the time. Sometimes GMs do have to cancel. And I'm not trying to get down on GMs who cancel because of real legitimate life reasons. What I'm talking about are the GMs who cancel when they don't have to cancel, right? That's what we're talking about. And even so, you should give your players notice. Try to do the best you can to give your players that notice, guys. Listen, if you haven't joined the GM Philosophy Discord, but you're new in the chat, join it. Hit that thumbs up button. Also, make sure to grab my premium ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. 24 years of running games compacted into 50 pages of GM wisdom, deep philosophy, insights, and tactics for the experienced GM. If you want to run emotionally resonant games, find out what I have done to basically learn how to run games that players love to come back to. Grab that ebook. Link is in the description. It's available for a limited time. I'm getting ready to drop a new project, guys. It's going to be lit. Actually, it's going to come out earlier than I expected because I've made a lot of progress. I had a burst of creativity this last week and I got a bunch done on it. So we're getting ready to drop a new project. It's going to be lit. I'm so excited. The channel is going in great directions. Now, on this topic of what can we do to make the next session better, I'm really about gratitude right now, guys. In fact, I'm getting ready to do this on my games. Right after this live stream, I'm going to go literally do this. I think that we need to show more gratitude to our players as GMs. I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm so grateful to my players for putting time into the characters, putting time into the story. And I think that as GMs, we don't often show the right amount of gratitude to our players. What I think I'm going to do is send each player a message on Discord and be like, hey, I really appreciate you. And I loved what you brought to the session last session, and maybe like literally share my favorite thing they did last session, because I don't think players get enough appreciation. And I think that gratitude is like the secret currency, right? Like the currency of gratitude. Gratitude is so powerful with humans for building relationships, positive relationships, building real connections with people, actually showing people that you care. Like a lot of people overhype gifts and they underhype gratitude, just speaking the truth about what you appreciate about someone. I think that this could make your next session awesome because players might see, oh, the GM does care. They're not just running games for money. They're not just running games, and they don't care about the players. They do care about the players. They want to create a good experience. I think this is really important. So that's my next tip, how to make a game better in the next session. Show some gratitude to your players before that session. I'll bet you they'll reward you. They'll be really pumped up by that. Stuart says, my players are stunned when I run my games with as few as one player. I have 5 players in both sessions, but if some can't make it, we go forward. Not sure why GMs can't adapt to player numbers. I actually agree with you. I used to have a rule, so for a long time I had a rule that if 2 or more players were going to be absent, we would cancel. However, nowadays I do not run with that rule. Nowadays, I will run with one player because I'm in it to win it more than ever. And I've realized the value that can come from the magic of having fewer players and getting to go deep on role play. More player spotlight, fewer players equals deeper story, deeper lore building. And that can really increase retention glue in your characters or in your players. This is actually true for paid games too. You want to really get players to care about your games and stick around. Really investing in them in that way, building that deep lore when some players can't make it, but you have more spotlight time to give. That is an opportunity, friends. That's not a detriment to your game. That is an opportunity to build something better. Stuart says 100%. Fewer players, more spotlight. My players are happy when fewer show, despite the fact that I have a spotlight clock. I totally understand. Fewer players, I have to admit, I fight against. There's going to be less energy. That's always my first thought when someone cancels. It decreases the energy. And I will admit it's deflating to me, but I have to push past it. I got to push past that because I love the sessions when I get into them. Those are usually the most fire sessions. But there is a perceived lack of energy energy drops. Garrick says getting wannabes to take the leap and run a couple sessions. Oh, you mean if players can't make it? Okay. There was a time when we used to run our big games. Another story about these big games I ran in my house back in my 20s. When we'd have like 13, 14, sometimes 15 players show up, we would actually break it into two sections. And there was one other guy. No one else in that group was running games. Nobody was a GM. But there was one other guy who was an aspiring GM. He was one of my core players, really awesome guy, has become a great GM. I've played in some of his games, really, really fun. One of my personal in-person friends. But what we would do is if we got more than 13 people, I would be like, yo, David, let's split the group. And so what we would do is half of them would be like magically transported into some other place, and he would run half the session in the living room, and then I'd run my session in the kitchen dining room. And so we would split it into two sessions, and then everyone would be like figuring out what group they were going to be in. It was very dramatic. It was like a popularity contest. It's like if one player was going to play in one of them, there'd be like three players would be like, oh, I want to be with his character. Like, there's a room. Like they're all trying to get places, and you have people random rolling, see who rolls high enough to get into which group. It was super fun. But Garrick, I think you're right. Getting GM wannabes to take the leap and run a couple sessions is good. However, we have to be, I'm a little concerned about that, because when I host at my table, whether it be online or in person, whatever, if players show up expecting to go rock and roll in the story we've been telling, but then I derail that by saying, oh, guess what? So-and-so is GMing tonight. We're doing a one-shot. I feel like that's very deflating. I feel like that's not what players signed up for, right? So I don't know. I have a little mixed feelings about that, just a little bit. Let me know what you think about that. No one of consequence says 5 players is really the max I prefer, although one game I'm running as 6. I love the more the merrier, but it does hurt spotlight time, and it really hurts the quiet players. It is so hard for quiet players to have a good experience when there's like more than 5 people. Spotlight hogs, like if I could give me 12 spotlight hogs all in the same session, we're going to rock and roll. That's going to be a rocking session because everyone's going to be yelling over each other. They're going to be breaking out into party fights. It's going to be epic. I love it. That's the kind of D&D I came up in, guys. This civilized D&D is new to me. I'm kind of a savage. I like that savage table atmosphere. Garrick says, if they want to be GMs but are hesitant. If people are hesitant to be a GM, I would encourage them to try. I think a lot of people doubt that they could do it, but it's not rocket science. Really, it's really just about showing up, caring, and trying your best. And you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. And you learn a couple little lessons, a couple important lessons, like spotlight, which I would say is the next tip of the day. How to make your next session better. Make sure that you give equal spotlight time to everybody. This is a very basic thing, but it's really important. Give everyone spotlight time. Set yourself a spotlight clock. People don't like this. I've had so many players. This is funny. I've had players complain about a spotlight clock when I told them I had it. When I didn't tell them I was running it, those same players said my session felt like it was very smooth and amazing. This is really funny how our perception of things is different when we know what's going on, right? Hit that thumbs up button, guys. Give me some algorithm juice. I really appreciate everyone being here. If you're new to this chat, never been here before, drop new in the comments. I want to meet you. I want to see who's in the chat. Also, make sure to join our Discord. Links in the description. And grab my book, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery, in the comments. 24 years of gaming experience compacted into a 50-page ebook. Still available for a low introductory price, but it's going away fast, guys, because I'm about to drop a new project. Make sure you grab that. Support the channel, too. It helps us support the channel. Stuart says, known of consequence, I have 2 sessions running and my max is 5 players. I will never go over 5, and my sessions also go 4 to 5 hours. I also prefer those longer sessions. For a while I was experimenting with 3-hour sessions, but I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't feel long enough. I like the 4-hour sessions. If you're not careful, I'll try to go 5-6 hours. If you're not careful, I have to really watch myself. I have to really taper back. I feel like I'm slamming on the brakes at the 4th hour. Like I feel like I want to go another hour naturally. Then if I go 5 hours, I'm just kind of feeling like, oh man, I'm getting a little tired. I'm getting a little mentally fatigued. I'm chilling now. I'm going to back away, let the players kind of lead with the role play a little more. That's how I feel about it. When you say max is 5 players, if you're playing virtually, I understand. It's also different playing in person versus virtual. In person, Six players feels way different than six players feel in virtual, because in virtual, when you talk over each other, it's a real big deal. In person, you can actually get a lot more done. Everyone talking at the same time, it actually can lead somewhere. But in person or in virtual, it's just noise, right? AWOL Warrior says, I've gone as high as 10 and it was awful. I didn't have nearly enough experience to manage the spotlight in that situation. That's fair. But was it virtual? Was it in person? Because 10 virtually, I can't imagine. I don't think there's enough spotlight time. I just don't think there is. And I hate to say that, but in person, 10 is totally doable. No one of consequence says, my 6-player group is respectful of each other's turn to speak, so it works, but I won't go any higher. I tried DMing an 8-player group a couple of years ago and hated it. Once again, I want to ask if that was in person or if it was virtual, because that makes such a big difference, guys. From now on, when you post the size of your group, I want you to say virtual or in person, because it matters so much. Garrick says, our sessions are 7 hours plus delivered supper. I'm sometimes fading the last hour. That's what I'm talking about, man. 7-hour session. Garrick, are your players all engaged the whole time, or is it a thing where they're like coming and going? Like, is it more chill? I've known GMs who've run way chill sessions that are like longer, but then there were players who'd like run to the store and back or run to get takeout. And so there were people coming and going, and it was way more chill, that kind of vibe. I'll be honest, that's not my style of game, but I do see that there could be value in that. No one of consequence says, back when I was in my 20s to 30s, we'd play all night. I'm too old for that now. 3.5 to 4 hours is my max now. I totally understand. The longest game of D&D I ever ran was, I think, 13 hours straight. We started at 6 p.m. and we played till 7 p.m. the next morning. The sun was rising. We all went to McDonald's and got breakfast. That's the longest session I've ever run. Haven't really done that again. Usually capped it at like 6 or 7 hours other than that time. Crosshatch says, I miss the longer sessions, but as a dad of 2 under 2, it's too much time away from the kids or the wife, and I want her to be okay with me playing. We have it at 2 hours every week. Crossheart, your sessions are 2 hours usually? Is it virtual or is it in person? It seems like, so there's a quality to short sessions. I'm not going to lie, because a short session, it feels short, but it keeps people wanting more. That's the thing. And so that's why 3 hours, when I play with William, I'm a player in William's games. We only play 3 hours, but it makes me wish we were playing for another hour, right? And then that's a good way to leave it. Leave them wanting more. So the shorter sessions, they're kind of a pain, but also they're kind of good for that reason, right? AWOL Warrior says, in person, I've never done VTT. Really? AWOL, you said 10 people was horrible, though. That surprises me. I feel like 10 people is a magical in-person number. I love it. But it is a lot of spotlight control. And you got to be really comfortable with a lot of people shouting at you at the same time. I feel like. So interesting. Okay, but now, hey, fair. Super fair. Crossheart says, I'm virtual. Got you. No one of consequence says, all my games are on Roll20 these days. Okay, no, fair. I totally understand, man. Those bigger parties in virtual is brutal. It's brutal, and I end up feeling guilty because people don't get enough spotlight time. Bert says, I only do in person. That I love in person, man. And I like virtual. Virtual has allowed me to play with people I never would have played with before. But in person is such a win. Garrick says, pretty engaged. They drive an hour each way, and there has to be enough session to justify that time. Yeah, no, totally. I love it. I love hearing about that, and I think it sounds like you're killing it. For people, I know that a lot of people in your group, Garrick, I've heard are like family and stuff. So there's a lot of glue there, but still, it sounds like the game is engaging enough and they're into the game enough that it has a lot of value. I'm sure they wouldn't have kept playing with you because your campaign is really long running, if I remember right. No one of consequence says, Stuart, same here. I retired from the Army a few years ago and have become rather reclusive since then. Okay, all right. Quentin says, DM'd an open play game with 8 people once in person. It is fun, but the games take on a different tone. Works well for theme park style adventures and dungeon crawls. That's true. Okay, so here's the thing. When you say takes on a different tone, what do you mean about that? Do you mean like there's less like immersive, like heartfelt, emotional resonance role play? Is that what you mean? Because I could see that. Although I will say, in bigger groups, there is a lot of opportunity for that, but there's less opportunity for quiet moments with just 2 people role playing hardcore with that many people. That is harder to nail down, I do believe, because a lot of people want to be doing everything all at once, which is its own fun, hence the theme park style or the dungeon crawl. But I'm interested to hear more about that, Quentin. Crossheart says, 2-hour sessions can feel rushed at times, but I make sure to let everyone have a moment, and it's easier if I plan it ahead. When I plan a session, I do it with a specific characters in mind? Oh, do you not have the same characters at every session all the time? Or do you mean like just the serendipity of life? Some people can make it, some people can't. Stuart says my sessions are 4 to 5 hours, play for 2+ hours and take a break for 10, then go back for 2 more. This way people need a snack, drink, bye, I'll let the dogs out, done, refresh them back. That's really good. I'm as a player, I'm never afraid to be like, I need a break, I'm going to take my dogs out or whatever. But I think giving players a break is good because some people may not want to miss the role play, right? And so giving them that courtesy is a really good thing. I think that's another tip. Give your players a break in the middle of the next session. Say, go grab a drink, go grab your snacks, go kiss your dog, go pet your cat, go talk to your parrot, and then come back and we'll continue the adventure. This is good because, when you're sitting at a computer, you also need to get up and stretch a little bit. We're all going to turn into gremlins sitting at this computer. This is bad business. I despise sitting at a computer for as long as I do every day. I despise it. I think it's bad for our human bodies, but it's a sin we must indulge in order to engage with the online world. Unless you have something like a desk treadmill or something like that, or a standing desk. Crossheart says, I actually refuse the 6th player to keep sessions from missing someone during play. I'd love to have lots of people, but I want each player to shine. This is very fair, especially in virtual, man. I've thought about capping my virtual sessions at 4. I've really thought about that. I haven't done it yet, but I'm not going to lie. I have continued to think about that idea. And I'm not saying I'm going to do it yet, but I have continued to return to that idea just because, I don't know, I'm going to tell you what, when I have 6 players and some of them are quiet players, I end every session with a significant amount of guilt. Like it feels bad if I feel like some of the quiet players didn't get as much screen time. I legitimately feel bad and guilty about that. And it even goes as far as to say that it actually kind of hurts the experience for me. And that has been a big motivator to maybe reduce party sizes to 4. Whenever I ask my players about this, though, the vast majority of players say they like the 6-player party size. Even the quiet players say this. And it's been very rare that I've had players say they don't like this. And I've even had a lot of players say they would be fine with going even higher. 7 players. They'd be willing to try it for the right player. So there you go. That's the data I've gathered on that. AWOL says, those breaks also give the DM a moment to plan for an unexpected development in the game. Yeah, no, that's true. Crossheart says, I like 4, but hard cap at 5 players. In person, I can allow more because it's harder to forget someone. Yeah, and in person, it's also easier for people to all talk at the same time. It is easier, and it's not always disruptive. It really isn't. Hey, if you're new to the live stream, if YouTube brought you here because you love TTRPGs, drop a comment, say new, and I'll introduce myself, and then I'll see that you're here and that you're new, and it'll be awesome. We will meet and become friends. And also join my Discord. Links in the description. It's free, the GM Philosophy Discord. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you wouldn't mind and drop a comment. And make sure you grab my ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. 24 years of running games filled with emotional resonance, packed into a 50-page ebook. All of my advanced tactics. Grab it. Link is in the description. It's available for a low introductory price for a limited time because I'm getting ready to drop a new project, and it will no longer be introductory. All right. So with that being said, let's go on to the next tip. How to make the next session more special. Here's the thing, and I think that Crossheart just touched on it. Give every player at least a moment to shine. Spotlight control is very important, but we also want to give players actual role play time. And here's a tricky thing, guys. Some players don't know what they want. They're waiting for an opportunity to find something to care about. Give them opportunities. Throw little plot arcs at them. Don't waste a bunch of time on plot arcs that they don't care about, but see what sticks, see what they care about. Throw a bunch of stuff at them. They're going to probably invest in one, and that's how you know that maybe they've picked up on something they're enjoying. Okay. Jester says, I play mainly in person. 6 is easy for me, and I can still get around to everyone pretty easily. Usually 3-hour sessions. Ooh, in person, 6 players, 3-hour sessions. That is compact. I feel like, man, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like in person almost necessitates an extra hour because it feels like there's a lot more getting around to it. In person requires more prep because someone's hosting the space too. So someone has to like kind of clean up a little bit. You're probably hosting it at your house, unless you're hosting it at like a local game store. But like there's a lot of prep work that goes in. 3 hours seems shorter for the amount of prep work going into it. It's interesting. How do you feel about that, Jester? Do you feel like you wish it was longer? Or does that just work better? Does it feel good that way? Because you also have to clean up after the fact. Maybe you schedule 3 hours for play and then a half hour to hang out, plus get the players to help you clean up after you guys hang out. Sometimes cleaning up is its own monster. It used to take me a long time to clean up after in-person D&D, and sometimes players would stick around and help me doing the dishes and whatnot, because we had to eat dinner and stuff too. We'd cook like a big pot of mac and cheese or something, or make hot dogs for everybody. I was broke in my 20s. I had no money. So it was always cheap food, buying like cheap soda, feeding everybody. People would bring food and you'd always love them for it. So they'd be like, you're my best friend. Thank you for bringing food. It's like, that's how it went. All right. So Quentin says the role playing becomes less intimate for sure. Can get cool moments where the party buys me free time as GM by going back and forth. Yeah, that's true. Here's a question for you guys running in-person games. I used to have a lot of these situations where there'd be a lot going on at the table. There'd be like people role playing and doing things, but then one player would be having like something really key going on. And so you lean over there and you're whispering to them while everyone else is yelling at you. And you're like, yeah, roll your attack roll. Roll me that stealth check. Yeah. You see a big door. There's a big symbol on it. It looks like a skull. Now roll that perception check. And then you say, so hold on 1 minute. Like these kinds of things. Like, I don't know if this happens to you guys in in-person games, but to me, that's so much fun, so much excitement. Jester says, I don't count cleanup and setup. Usually an hour or two for setup and about an hour after for cleanup. 3 hours solid play time, space set aside for play. Okay, yeah, no, that's cool. Do you feel good about that? Like, do you like that? I still feel like 3 hours feels a little light for in-person. I feel like with VTTs it's so different because there's like you just sit down at your computer. All the prep work is like digital, right? So it's like, I don't know. It just feels like if everyone there's also drive time to the game, right? Blue Rose Line says, on the food subject, I am the problem player. I only eat meat and I can't eat a lot of the snacks most bring. Blue Rose Line's on that carnivore diet. I want to get back to the carnivore diet. I was on the carnivore diet for a good half a year in 2024. Felt awesome, got in the best shape of my life, loved it. And then just because life fell apart, I ended up compromising on that and going back to eating some junk food and blah, blah, blah. Would love to get back to it. I'm going back now to eating more whole foods, no to the processed foods, no more of this frozen pizza business. I made stew yesterday that has just like potatoes, carrots, pork. We got some corn in there. What else do we have in there? Put a green pepper in there. Beef broth, stuff like that. Garbanzo beans, get those garbanzo beans in there. That's what I'm talking about. Blue Rose Lion. Now, the fact that your name is Blue Rose Lion, it makes me wonder if that's part of that. I don't think that's a problem, but it does mean that you're probably not going to be able to eat most of the junk food that gamers eat. When I was in my teens, man, I remember I ate so many jalapeno Doritos, I literally got burnt out on them. And I would drink those AMP energy drinks, those Mountain Dew AMP energy drinks. Oh, so unhealthy, man. So unhealthy. I was just abusing my body. Jester says, yeah, the group loves it. I do a VTT at the table. So maps are not too bad. I use Dungeon Alchemist for my maps. Oh, so does everyone bring their device or do you project it, Jester? Because that's cool. They're selling those like GM projectors now that you can use to project maps. And I think that is actually really awesome. I've always been an analog hex grid draw with Sharpie markers kind of guy, but I'll admit, it'd be really cool to project your high def maps onto the table surface. Crossart says, if a player is being quiet or doesn't contribute much, I'll ask them for specific moments of input. If someone else finishes off an enemy, they fall at the feet of the quiet character asking for mercy. That's actually really cool. And it actually is kind of thematic because if the talkative players are the ones dealing out the damage and the pain, maybe they turn to the quiet player because they think I might have a chance with this one. That makes sense to me. That's a good tactic too. It is a good tactic. It makes them feel like they're part of the game. And I'm not talking about like it's a consolation prize or like a pity moment. Like, oh, you're quiet, I'm going to throw you a bone. That's not what I'm talking about. Because quieter players, they do sometimes struggle to speak up and claim their spotlight time. And it's just because they're shy or maybe because they're introverted. I love my quiet players. I would always encourage my quiet players to be louder because they're usually awesome, but it's not in their nature. And I'm not, dissing them for that. AWOL Warrior says, we host and my wife cooks for everyone. I don't think the players know how spoiled they are. You got that right. That's what see, this is part of what being a game master is. Being a game master is only one part, running the game, knowing the rules, blah, blah, blah. It is also community organizer and oftentimes community host. And yeah, if they're getting a home cooked meal when they game with you, friend, they are incredibly spoiled. Perhaps you should charge a ticket price and then give half of it to your wife. Say, this is my wife's shopping money. she will probably really endorse this. She may say, run 2 or 3 games a week. I'll cook for all of them. Maybe this could be a unique avenue for you to go down. Jester says, the projectors suck, in my opinion. I built a table with a screen. Okay. Jester is like an icon, literally built a whole table with a screen built in. They can do D&D Beyond on their phones, tablets, or laptops. Jester, that is awesome. That is awesome. Kudos to you. You are a real OG. Like, you are getting it. I'm impressed. I'm high-key impressed right now. I was thinking maybe you projector it, but no, you built a whole game table. You are hardcore in the craft, my friend. Many kudos to you. Blue Rose Lion says, I'm a quiet player online, but in person I have to monitor myself to not hog the spotlight. Really? What is it about being online that's different for you? I'm interested about that. I feel like when I'm online, there's more risk of me being a spotlight hog than in person. I feel like in person, I'm way more likely to kind of like chill and watch and listen to people. But I think when I'm virtual, there's no visual stimulation. It's just me hearing people. And if there's a second of silence, I'm going to jump in there. So there's more risk of me talking over someone. I feel like it's the opposite with me. Stuart says, yeah, CrossArt, I have a couple of players and I have to force them to take their turn. They can always make it quick or pass, etc. But I'm always watching my clock for them. Yeah, that's fair. And that's a good way to do it, I think. Jester says, same here. AWOL, me and my wife and I cook and players chip in for foods. Yeah, man, so I think that this is going to make a big comeback. Okay. We're in such a digital age right now with AI, VTTs, and all this stuff. However, there are some marketers who are talking about this. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast almost every day. He talks about this. He's actually investing heavily into event-based things, like in-person event-based things like escape rooms, alternative sports, stuff like pickleball, like stuff people are going to want to get together for in person, because when things go even more digital, there's going to be like a fracture. You're going to have people who are just all in on digital. They're going to be wearing VR goggles. They're going to live online, basically, maybe even work online. But then there are going to be humans who are going to say, no, I want to be around other humans. And that's going to be a real event-based thing. I believe that in-person D&D is going to experience a big renaissance when that happens. And I'm excited for it. And I'm trying to prepare my life for when that time comes. High key. Well, exactly what you're talking about. You've already done that. You've already got your life set up to where you're hosting people in person. I think this is going to become very valuable. I'm wondering if you've ever considered actually running paid games and charging for a place for your table, because you already have that spot, you already host, you already have the hospitality, but you may not want to open your home to strangers. So maybe that kind of thing might be best suited to like a third party location, like a game store or a local pub or something like that. Just some ideas to float out there. Blue Rose Lion says, I'm too polite to talk over others. In person, if I see an opening, I jump in. That's funny. It's like the opposite of me. Although I do jump in if I see an opening with physical in-person gatherings too. Everyone, if you're new here to the chat, if YouTube brought you here and you're new, drop a comment, say new. I want to get to know you, become your friend. Join my free Discord, links in the description, GM Philosophy Discord. We're all about empowering game masters to run better games. Leave a comment, hit that like button, and then also make sure you grab my ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. 24 years of running games, insights, philosophies, tactics, packed into a 50-page ebook. Learn how to run emotionally resonant games that'll keep your players coming back wanting more. CrossArt says, many times when I plan a session for a quieter player, I'll let the charismatic loud players take the lead and help the quiet player make decisions, or an NPC will directly ask them for their decision. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that that's a great way to, like I say, sometimes you got to bring it out of the quiet players. You got to bring it out of them. They have so much to offer. They have so much to offer. They have so much cool role play insight. They've got character lore. They've got really cool opinions about things in world, like your character does. The character has great decisions to be made, but there's something about them being shy or being quiet where they don't just project it. They don't claim the space. They need to be handed the space. But when they're handed to it, when it is handed to them, they crush it. CrossArt says you have to bully the quiet players. Yeah, you gotta push them in the spotlight with your elbow. Give them a little shove out there so that they can claim the spotlight that they deserve, because they're awesome. Some of my quiet players bring the most amazing role play moments, but if you never help them, if you never set it up, If you never hand them the spotlight, those moments would never happen. And then they'd probably get disillusioned and quit, unfortunately. This has been a huge challenge for me running virtually. In person, it has not been as big a deal. Though I will say I've also learned lessons running virtually that would probably help me running in person, doing better about that. Jester says, funny thing, I have thought about getting a shed style building and doing it up inside to run in-person games or to rent out for people to use. Heck yeah, Jester. Invest in that upcoming human-to-human interactivity that's getting ready to hit the marketplace. In-person human activities are going to become a commodity that people are going to pay money for because they're going to reject living online, wearing goggles, like in that show. What was that Disney show? Was it WALL-E? Was it WALL-E where everyone is just like laying down, wearing goggles and drinking smoothies? Was that Disney show? I think it was. I think we're going to go in that direction. And I want to be hanging out with people. I want to be with the humans. I don't want to live in goggles in the virtual world, right? Let my body fall apart, not use my muscles, not get the sunlight. I don't want to do that. And I want to be around cool people, doing cool things with the cool kids, right? T-Dog says, I've been playing play by post, taking a break from my in-group game, which has been nice. Play by post. Okay, gotcha. What do you use? Do you do it on Discord? Are you running are you doing it via, some messenger? You say, I've always played in person, but within this year, I've been doing a lot more online one-shots to get to meet other people in the realm and get used to other playing styles. Nice. What have you been using to meet other people? This actually interests me. How are you meeting the new people you're meeting? Are you going to start playing? Are you going on Discord? Are you going to Reddit? I know that Roll20 has forums to meet people. Crossheart says a vital thing to do to encourage client players to input is encourage them afterwards with positive reactions, both on and above table, but genuinely, not in a phony way. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I think they have to be reassured that they're not being too loud or something. I had a situation where a player left a game and one of my quiet players messaged me and was like, I've been really worried that I caused that player to leave. And I was just like, what? This was such a there is no way. There is 0% chance that player caused that other player to leave. No chance. They did nothing. They didn't even approach doing anything that would cause them to leave. And yet they messaged concerned about that. And I thought to myself, you didn't even talk near as much as anyone else during the session. Why would you be the one to cause the problem? And I reassured it. I assure you, you were not the problem. I assure you. But that surprises me. Quiet people are sometimes hard for me to understand. I'll be honest. They surprise me. T-Dog says mainly Discord, finding a lot of groups and connecting with other creators. Nice. Awesome. T-Dog, you should join our Discord. We're almost 600 GMs strong. Links in the description. Come join us, hang out. You may find some kindred spirits. There are people doing play-by-post in the Discord. However, I have not done any play-by-post. It's been a long time. I dabbled in that when I was in my early 20s on MySpace. Okay. I met friends playing Modern Warfare online. I was playing Modern Warfare. I met some people, and then this was way back in the day. This was during the first Modern Warfare game. MySpace was still around. I think Facebook was just coming up, but I rejected it. I was like, Facebook is a fad. MySpace is where it's really at. And I met these people, and we became MySpace friends. And they were like, hey, do you want to play our text-based role play with me? And I was like, sure. And I dabbled in it. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was actually pretty fun. It kind of fizzled out. It never went anywhere. But there you go. There's my experience with play-by-post. It's been on MySpace. I don't think there's a lot of play-by-post going on MySpace right now. JT bought that, and now it's mostly a place for bands, and it seems dead. Does anyone use MySpace? Does anyone use MySpace for anything these days? I don't think so. For that matter, Facebook is still very much alive, but now Facebook is an app for old people, right? That's what my kids say. They say Facebook is for old people, Dad. Because I'm on Facebook. It's one of the primary social media I use. YouTube is by far the most social media thing I do. Quentin says, what do you all find is the most valuable prop for getting players engaged? Been deliberating 3D terrain for a bit. Hard to gauge how valuable the average table finds it. I don't have very much experience with 3D terrain. I will say this, when I'm a player, I think that 3D terrain, I'd be like, oh, that is so cool. But I don't think I think it would matter very little in me choosing which table. I think that what would actually get me engaged at a table is having a GM who is willing to go down the paths with me, role-playing, character development that I want to go down, being open and willing to let me, for example, if I find a GM who's willing to let me homebrew some stuff, that's a big draw for me. If I find a GM who's willing to do some deep role play with me, that draws my attention. A GM who's willing to entertain some of the weird beats I go down. Because when I roleplay characters, usually I have very specific things I'm trying to explore those characters. And when I find a GM who understands that and who's willing to go down that hole with me, that has a lot of value to me. I do place value on other players, but they're probably not quite as crucial to the process as the GM. What will keep me from getting engaged in the game, which will cause me to leave a game immediately, is if I encounter a GM who doesn't seem like they're going to let me role play and tell the story of my character that I want to play. T-Dog says, I too built a TV table, but sad that I don't use it or I don't use it anymore. The table usually gets covered up with all my players' stuff, and they also never did a good job of tracking their tokens. That's an oddly specific thing. But you're right. Them players don't track their tokens very well. Jester says, I tried the 3D terrain, but I have found just asking the players what their character sees draws them in a little more. I give a description, then let them help me build the scene. I agree with Jester. That's the direction I'll go in. I feel like 3D terrain would be really good if you're like running games like a one-shot, like you have a dedicated one-shot set up with 3D terrain, like a haunted village or something, and then you invite people in and you play the one-shot, because you can't what are we going to do? Build with 3D terrain, build every single scene the players go into? That seems to me to be a little unsustainable and not very realistic. It seems like a lot to ask and a lot of work. Whereas if you do a projector with a virtual tabletop or a TV in it, you can just project terrain onto it. It seems like way more user-friendly, way more efficient. But 3D terrain has its own magic. I think it's just limited in its usefulness. It is its own magic, and it is a cool thing, and some people are really into it. And I think it's really valuable. I just feel like that would definitely not be the determiner that would get me to stay in a game versus choose a game. I feel like 3D terrain would be way low on the list. I feel like I'd rather play a complete theater of the mind game where there's a lot of in-depth role play going on, where I can really tell the story of my character authentically. I would be much more drawn to that game than by anything graphics related. But then again, I'm not a graphics stickler. I've played a lot of pure theater of the mind role play, and I love theater of the mind role play. Jester says maybe a little scattered terrain and big fights, but talking it usually works. Crossheart says, I'm not an artist, so I use AI to take character player descriptions and create the perfect visual. My sister was using a generic pick, but I made an image of her character with her special magic items. Did she like it, or did she reject the AI rendering and prefer the generic art? I've actually seen that happen. Some players, they'll draw their character and they like that, and that's a form of expression for them, and they don't want AI art in it. I've noticed that, and I respect it. AWOL Warrior says, I've been experimenting with aging paper so I can hand players physical maps, clues, and letters. I seem to enjoy the added immersion. That's cool. That is really cool. That's a really cool thing to add. T-Dog says, a lot of the added notes takes away from the actual imagination. I like making maps, but the player's imagination is my focus. I would agree with that. When we picture it in the mind, it's like, how much can we do outside? Some people take it really far. They go to live action role play where they actually dress up and they go outside and they actually have the sword fights. Some people do the 3D terrain. Some people go really hard on virtual, trying to have the most amazing. So it's almost like a video game. But to me, when we start going in these directions, they're cool. But the adventure is supposed to be going on in our collective imagination. That's where the magic is supposed to be. That was the whole original pure form of the hobby. Now, that doesn't mean that 3D terrain is not good. It does not mean live action role play isn't good. I'll be honest, I am not a live action role play guy. I'm not one of those guys. I do enjoy a good boff. I'll boff. I'll actually get the pool noodle swords and I'll sword fight. That's fun and it's a great workout, but I don't want to do live action role play. And I do not do the most high def images on VTT, but I can see the value in going in those directions. And there are different people who specialize in those things. But I think the shared imagination of the scene is where the real magic is for me. That's where I think the magic place is. Crossheart says she absolutely loved it. I gave her a few options and she picked her favorite. Heck yeah, that's awesome. That's probably something very memorable that she's going to remember for a long time and really appreciate. Everyone hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, drop comments. Say new. I'd love to meet you. Become friends. Join the GM Philosophy Discord. Link is in the description. Keep the conversation going. We are over 500 GMs strong, approaching 600 members. And make sure to grab my ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. 24 years of gaming wisdom packed into 50 pages. Learn how to run emotionally resonant games and support the channel, support the work we got going on here at GM Philosophy. I appreciate all of of you. T-Donk says, I go back and forth with AI art. It always makes intense characters, but for world images, it seems to struggle with. I've also hand-drawn and sent it to AI to clean it up, and it does a pretty good job. I agree. AI art is a whole nother monster, and I've done live streams about that. Maybe I should do a live stream about that coming up. Personally, I use all AI art because I am artistically defunct. In high school, the girls in my class would literally say, don't give Josh markers. He'll ruin whatever he draws on. Like in high school, the girls were saying that about me. And they were not wrong. It was a dangerous gamble letting me draw on anything important. I am so artistically bad at drawing anything. So for me, AI art has opened up a whole new world of art that I would never have had access to, ever. I would never have had access to it before. And so for me, it's awesome. But there are some people who feel really threatened by art, by the AI art. Hot take. I think people are afraid that AI art is going to take the jobs of humans who make good art. I do not believe there's a danger here. I mean, yeah, AI is going to take jobs, but humans will always have the monopoly on first degree inspiration and creativity, at least for now. I say they always will. There may come a time when AI will imagine things, but AI can't really see the world like we see it. You know, they can only draw based on human inspiration. T-Dog says, I do work to sell and I make that all hand, no AI. But for my fun games, I go with it all the time. Yeah, no, I totally understand that.